Chapter 219 Complete Suppression. Wu Feng asked herself hysterically, is it simply because Hua Yuao is stronger than me? No. He might not be stronger than I am. Intense envy and the abnormal feelings she harbored towards Ningtian erupted once more, and the hatred she felt towards Hua Yuao was elevated to an unprecedented level. Dai Huobin's emotions were a lot steadier than hers. From beginning to end, his hatred for Hua Yuao had never declined. He had been losing to someone ever since he had entered the academy, someone whose cultivation was clearly far inferior to his, and that someone was Hua Yuao. From his perspective, Hua Yuao had taken the glory that should have belonged to him. The Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament's championship should have been his. He deeply believed that if he worked hard enough, he would definitely do better than Hua Yuao, and he should have been the one to join the Shrek 7 monsters. Dai Yueheng had reminded him more than once that Hua Yuao was outstanding in many different aspects. However, it was because of this that his stubbornness and dissatisfaction grew even stronger. He had been cultivating as hard as he could over the past few years. All he wanted to do was have another battle with Hua Yuao, and use the outcome to prove that he was stronger than Hua Yuao was. However, Hua Yuao had been gone from the academy for over 2 years, and only just returned several days ago. He had waited for this day for too long. When Hua Yuao confessed to Wang Dong, Dai Huobin was unnaturally calm. Why? He was laughing coldly inside. A confession was good, because that meant Hua Yuao cared for this unbridled and arrogant girl with the number 2 tag. That meant defeating Hua Yuao during the Sea God's fate was the best choice, as this would greatly humiliate him even if it wouldn't break his spirit. It was equivalent to him stealing Hua Yuao's girlfriend. A peculiar excitement appeared in Dai Huobin when these thoughts surfaced in his head. He really wanted Hua Yuao's feelings for the girl with the number 2 tag to become even deeper. That way, Hua Yuao would definitely feel a lot more pain and agony when his girl was stolen. Hua Yuao finally reoriented himself, and he grasped Wang Dong's hands tightly. He lowered his voice and said, "Let's begin." On the lake? Zhang Lisan's voice echoed from a distance. The bride kidnapping doesn't have to happen on the lake's surface. There are fewer people on your team, Yuao, so you guys can choose the location for your battle. Hua Yuao shook his head and said, "There's no need. Let's just do it on the Sea God's lake. The Sea God's fate has fulfilled the 2 of us, and I hope this romantic and fateful meeting to be as perfect as it can be." His answer was calm, but the 5 people standing before him suddenly felt very different at this moment. Hua Yuao's aura seemed to transform and rise rapidly. This wasn't because of his soul power. It was an imposing demeanor that was hard to describe. It was vast and broad, and even though it wasn't that sharp, it brought immensely powerful pressure. Ningtian's face changed. She knew that she had underestimated Hua Yuao in the end. However, there were 2 against 5. Did the 2 of them really have the confidence to defeat 5 people who were similar in cultivation? She was sure now that Hua Yuao definitely knew the girl with the number 2 tag. Hua Yuao held Wang Dong's hand with his right hand, and a faint smile appeared on his face. He tapped softly on the water lily with the tip of his foot, and propelled both Wang Donga and himself into the air. His movements weren't fast, but there was an unnatural harmony within his movements, even as a layer of light gradually shimmered into view about him. The little snow lady on his shoulder flew out with a whoosh, hovering above his head. "Donga, should I call you that?" Hua Yuao whispered. "Yes." Wang Donga answered softly. She was full of sweetness and warmth in her heart, but she was still as shy and bashful as ever. In the end, the 2 of them had been calling each other brothers for so many years, and she wasn't very used to the sudden change in how they addressed each other. This still required a process no matter how willing she was in her heart. "We will definitely win. Help me fly." Hua Yuao moved in front of her as he spoke. Wang Donga hugged him across the waist, and the radiant butterfly goddess wings extended out to either side of them. They dipped slightly before flying forwards in the air. Dai Huobin and his impromptu began to move at the same time. Ningtian asked Ling Luoken, "Senior sister, can you control how high they can fly?" Ling Luoken shot a cold look at her and said, "Do you really think Hua Yuao is going to use his advantage in flight to fight us? He won't. What you guys should watch out for are his powerful offensive and control abilities. Let's go." She took point as she spoke and stepped lightly on the water's surface. Every step became a patch of thin ice as she pursued Hua Yuao and Wang Dong. Intense cold began to spread from her body. Ningtian frowned. During her time in the outer courtyard, she had always been the absolute leader of her class, and she had always been the brains. Ling Luoken refused to listen to her, and this made her a little uncomfortable. However, she had to win today's battle. From her perspective, she had to cleanse the humiliation that Hua Yuao had given her. No matter how displeased she was with Ling Luoken, she still released her martial soul, the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, as soon as possible. The soul tool shaped like a shuttle beneath her feet rotated, and she received a rapid speed boost as she followed behind Ling Luoken. Wu Feng was very tight with Ningtian, and she was also in the same class as Shi Wanyu and Dai Huobin. They had cooperated together many times, and the 4 of them naturally had a lot more chemistry when they moved together. "Senior sister, give us a place to stand." Ningtian growled softly. Fighting on the lake's surface wasn't their forte. In the end, not a single one of them had 7 rings, and none of them had martial souls that could fly. They could float on the water's surface for a short period of time, but they would never have the same convenience as Hua Yuao and Wang Dong's butterfly wings if they had to spend prolonged time above the water's surface. Ling Luoken grunted coldly and replied, "Do I need you to teach me?" The 6 soul rings on her body rose as she spoke, and a dense chill immediately caused the air temperature to plummet. A long and slender ice staff took form in her hands. Her forward momentum paused in the very center between the camps of the men and women. Intense chill permeated out from beneath Ling Luoken's feet in all directions. Large patches of tough ice could be seen condensing below her, spreading far into the distance. She didn't use any other soul skills besides her icy staff, and she relied on her control of her own ice element to accomplish all this. Ningtian was still astonished, even though Ling Luoken had just rebuffed her. She knew that Ling Luoken was part of the team that had brought home the championship in the last Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. However, she only understood that everyone with a reputation in Shrek actually had substance when she saw this display of power with her own eyes. Ling Luoken had deep and dense soul power, and along with her manipulation of her element, these were traits that the other 4 of them just couldn't match up to. However, the 4 of them also showed the qualities that had allowed them to enter the inner courtyard. Ningtian landed her shuttle-type soul tool behind Ling Luoken. Dai Huobin, Shi Wanyu, and Wu Feng all went forward and formed a row in front of Ling Luoken. Dai Huobin was in the center, while Wu Feng and Shi Wanyu stood at his sides. Everyone released their martial souls. The 5 of them formed a mini-battle team that consisted of 2 assault type, 1 defense type, 1 control type, and 1 auxiliary type soul master. Except for the fact that they didn't have an agility type soul master that was adept in speed, this impromptu soul master combination could be considered as perfect as it could be. This was especially true since their main control type soul master was extremely formidable, while their auxiliary type soul master possessed the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Ningtian's 7 treasures glazed pagoda began to take effect at the first possible moment. A single streak of soul power was attached to Ling Luoken's body, which greatly sped up the freezing process. 4 different amplifications, speed, power, strength, and defense, were unleashed and were added to the other 3 people. Colorful hues waltzed through the sky as an aura where 5 seemed to integrate as one began to permeate their surroundings. Just as Ling Luoken had said, Hua Yuao and Wang Dong didn't fly high into the sky. They stopped at a distance of about 100 meters away. They didn't launch an attack, and were just waiting in silence. Hua Yuao watched as Ling Luoken's frozen area of effect reached a diameter of 100 meters. Hua Yuao's voice could be heard from a distance away as he said, "Are you guys ready?" It was a simple question, but it was filled with immense self-confidence, and it was clear that his tone implied, "We won't attack because we're waiting for you to get ready. I'll come when you are." Dai Huobin roared angrily, "Hua Yuao, you will have a showdown with me, face to face, if you're a man." Hua Yuao laughed coldly and retorted, "Have you ever won?" Dai Huobin couldn't take it anymore, and he released a deafening tiger roar into the sky as he unleashed his soul skills. His frame began to swell, and radiant white light emerged from within his body. His body enlarged to more than 2 meters tall in a flash. His tightly bulging muscles were covered with a layer of white fur. The black patterns along his body were charged with a fearsome aura as his first, second, and third soul skills, White Tiger's Shield, White Tiger's Vajra transformation, and White Tiger's Devil God transformation, were used at the same time. With Ningtian's 7 treasures glazed pagoda amplifying him at the same time. He gave off a ferocious, formidable, and intimidating aura that flowed outwards. Hua Yuao and Wang Donga made their move. The wings behind Wang Donga's back flooded, and she carried Hua Yuao through the air as they descended and drifted to the other end of the icy surface. They held hands as they stepped forward side by side. They didn't accelerate, and they didn't charge forward. They were just sauntering along the surface of the ice. The tiny snow lady hovered beside Hua Yuao, and her orange golden luster became increasingly obvious. Right at that moment, a strange thing occurred on Hua Yuao's body. 1 white and 3 black soul rings gradually rose from beneath his feet and circled around his body rhythmically. This was a combination that shouldn't happen on soul masters, but it existed now, and was just so miraculous. However, the soul rings immediately changed the second they appeared, becoming 1 red and 4 orange soul rings that sparkled and glowed. These 2 combinations alternated while the colors intertwined, which gave everyone a strange and peculiar feeling. He has twin martial souls. He's switching his martial souls around. Ling Luoken's icy cold voice carried a tinge of surprise, but there was more caution. She had fought beside Hua Yuao before, so she understood how powerful Hua Yuao was. Back then, this youth hadn't even had his 3rd soul ring, yet he had displayed exceptional ability during a top-tier competition, the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament, and his contribution had been imperative to the team's claim on the championship. While today he was a Soul King after 5 years, she had chosen Hua Yuao today, which had seemed a little impulsive, but it was a cathartic release of all the feelings that had been accumulating at the bottom of her heart. When the big competition ended back in the day, Ling Luoken had actually felt a little despondent because she had found someone who was also ice-type, but was far more talented than she was, and that was Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao's ultimate ice gave her an overly strong impression. She knew that in the near future, there would be nobody in the academy, and perhaps the entire continent, that could challenge him in terms of ice-type abilities. There was a yearning in her heart, and she desired to be on the same competition stage or battlefield as him once more. Her own powers would be greatly boosted with his presence. The sensation of controlling ultimate ice was just too magical. Ling Luoken deeply believed that if she could cultivate together with Hua Yuao, her cultivation speed would be much faster than it was now. There was an obvious distinction between a soul master and a normal person's reasoning, and that was in romantic relationships. Why did Shrek Academy want to host the Sea God's fate? The reason was because the academy's students were too arrogant, and if others wanted to win them over, these people had to be on the same level of cultivation at the very least. The students' targets were people who would eventually become titled Douluo, with both parties complementing each other to reach this goal was what they desired most. Furthermore, only soul masters who had abilities that could impress them had a chance of winning their heart. Ling Luoken was no different, and her starting point was similar to Ning Tian in this regard. However, Ning Tian's mind for utility was purer, while Ling Luoken's heart had contained complex feelings towards Hua Yuao for 5 years. Today, her heart was finally moved when she saw the 17-year-old Hua Yuao. She could feel as if there were an aura inside his body that was calling out to her, and subconsciously attracting her soul power. That attraction was just too alluring to her, and even though Hua Yuao was 7 years younger than she was, Ling Luoken still walked out. It was a pity that all she got was a tactful rejection. Ling Luoken didn't have revenge or vengeance in mind when she proposed this challenge. She wanted to see the level of ice abilities that this youth, the one who was just so alluring to her, had reached 5 years after they first met. Dalu hammered his chest heavily. His extremely muscular body grew explosively in size again, and he charged towards Hua Yuao as he roared furiously. His feet made deep grooves in the tough ice beneath his feet in that explosive moment, and his body carried intense whitish golden light as he surged towards Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao's eyes sparkled, and there was no anxiety at all before Dalu. Dalu was 17 years old, and he had broken through rank 50, and was even nearing rank 60. But so what? Even without that hatred in his heart, Dalu was second to Dalu in Hua Yuao's heart. Dalu was perhaps more talented, but his obstinate and egotistical personality would eventually become the greatest hurdle in his future path. Hua Yuao acted like he didn't even see Dalu's lunge, and his soul ring switched back to 1 white and 3 black soul rings. The black soul ring in the 3rd position suddenly erupted with light, and Hua Yuao's eyes turned white. 2 pale white beams of light burst from his eyes, but their target wasn't Dalu. They went for the people behind him. The white light didn't hit anyone, instead halting in midair. Its position was in the middle of Dalu, Wu Feng, Xuanyu and Ling Luoken and Ning Tian behind them. The white radiance instantly transformed into a glowing white sphere, and a circle of white light expanded outwards from that position, accurately and steadily enveloping all 5 of them inside. Mass enfeeblement. An elder on the ferry couldn't help but comment in admiration. Such formidable control of his spirit. If I remember correctly, Elder Sun, spiritual control soul skills should be released from the user. How is he able to use his soul skill from a fixed location so far away? Elder Sun chuckled and said, "Didn't you just say it? Spiritual control." This is perhaps because his spiritual power has reached an impressive level, and he has an incredible ability to control it, so he's able to use the soul skill like that. This fellow has improved once more. His spiritual power. Elder Sun's eyes sparkled continuously. Everything that Hua Yuao had done for the soul tool department over the past 2 years had fallen into his eyes, and while he was pleased, he was also a little worried. He was worried that Hua Yuao had placed too much focus on soul tools that he ended up delaying or overlooking his cultivation. However, it seemed like he didn't need to worry at all. Dalu and the others immediately felt an intense weakness spreading over their bodies as mass enfeeblement worked its magic. Ling Luoken and Ning Tian were slightly better, as they were engaged in battle solely through releasing their soul power to use soul skills. However, Xuanyu, Dalu, and Wu Feng were close combat soul masters, and thus the weakness felt a lot more acute to them. The sudden weakness that Ning Tian felt greatly reduced the amplification provided by the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, and it even swayed their will to fight to a certain extent. Dalu was pouncing forward, but his movement speed was reduced by at least 30%. Hua Yuao made his move at this moment. He grabbed Wang Dong, and the 2 of them shone brilliantly as they flashed out. They gained a lot of speed, and an intense golden light fell on Wang Dong's body at the same time. Faced with their converging attack, Hua Yuao made an extremely calm judgment. His eyes were suddenly tainted with a strange golden color, and one could see upon closer inspection that there was a golden whirlpool deep within each of his spirit eyes. 2 golden beams of light shot out, targeting Dalu. The speed of light was unimaginably quick, and it was impossible for Dalu to evade this attack even if he wanted to, unless he had a skill like Hua Yuao's spiritual detection to predict the attack. Did he? Of course not. Therefore, he could only face it head-on. Dalu roared into the sky as his second soul ring lit up. At this moment, a surprising 4 of his 5 soul rings were operating at the same time. A dense white beam exploded from his mouth straight towards the 2 golden beams. He wanted to intercept them in midair. This was his second soul skill, White Tiger's Fierce Light Wave. When the white and golden lights clashed in the sky, Dalu was momentarily stunned, as he couldn't feel any force or impact at all. His White Tiger's Fierce Light Wave blasted far into the distance, while the 2 golden beams from Hua Yuao's eye struck his body. Spiritual power was different from soul power. He had made an erroneous judgment, and so he took a direct hit from Hua Yuao's 4th soul skill, Spiritual Confusion. A golden whirlpool that was half a foot high suddenly appeared above Dalu's head. Dalu immediately felt an acute dizziness fill up his entire head, as if it were about to wreak havoc in his mind. Everything before him became blurry, and he felt as if he was starting to lose control of his own body. Hua Yuao didn't typically use Spiritual Confusion. This wasn't because this soul skill wasn't very good. That was because this soul skill's single target controlling effects were too powerful, and it was too easy for others to remember. At least, he never used this soul skill whenever he had his practice battles with Ji Juogen, but he was outnumbered in this battle, and so Dalu finally became his lab rat. From everyone else's perspective, Dalu seemed to stop involuntarily in his tracks, as if he couldn't control himself anymore after he was struck by the golden light from Hua Yuao's eyes, and he appeared to be spinning in circles on the spot. Hua Yuao and Wang Dongas were still flying forward, and they seemed to brush past his shoulders as they went straight for Wu Feng. Xuanyu's reactions were quick. He had rushed in horizontally from the side when Dalu first displayed a loss of control. When he saw that Hua Yuao and Wang Dong were going for Wu Feng, the soul rings on his body lit up. His pudgy body suddenly plopped onto the ground, and a tremendous bouncing force propelled his body in Wu Feng's direction immediately afterwards. It was 5 versus 2, and Ling Luoken's soul skill had also found its target at this moment. She had discerned Hua Yuao's location, and she launched multiple soul skills at the same time. A layer of icy armor descended on Dalu's body body and boosted his defensive abilities. An ice prison was activated with accurate prejudgment, but it didn't go for Hua Yuao or Wang Donga. Instead, it went for Wu Feng. This ice prison was more than 10 meters in diameter, and it was formed from 24 thick ice pillars. The ice pillars tunneled from the surface and immediately provided powerful protection and control. Ling Luoken was exceptionally level-headed. She knew that Hua Yuao's control-type soul skill against Dai Huabin couldn't be maintained for a prolonged period of time. She was a control-type soul master, and she had to first ensure that they weren't a man down under such situations. Furthermore, she had a deep-seated fear of Hua Yuao's ultimate ice, and she knew that she couldn't possibly restrain Hua Yuao. Wu Feng didn't like the ice prison that was covering her. Her red dragon was a fire-type martial soul, and thus she had a natural-born rejection towards the ice element. However, she was still in awe and admiration of Ling Luoken's accurate control. No matter how disdainful she felt towards Hua Yuao, she knew that facing the two of them alone would heap immense pressure on her. Shi Wanyu was about to arrive, and Dai Huabin wouldn't be halted for too long. At this moment, she chose to store power and prepare. Dark red flames engulfed her entire body. Her second and third soul rings flickered at the same time. Dragon Fury and Dragon Armor were unleashed. Wu Feng displayed her strength as an inner courtyard disciple with her control over her soul skills, and she handled both skills at the same time without even touching the ice prison. However, the mighty attack that everyone had expected Hua Yuao and Wang Donga to launch against the ice prison didn't appear at all. Right when the ice prison shimmered into view, Hua Yuao and Wang Donga abruptly stopped in their tracks. Regardless of whether Wang Donga was a guy or girl, how could the people before them rival the chemistry and tacit understanding she shared with Hua Yuao? She returned behind Hua Yuao's back once more when he turned around, pressed her hands on his back, and immediately began to infuse Hadong power into his body. Hua Yuao was facing Shi Wanyu, who sprang towards them at this moment. Shi Wanyu was a defense-type soul master, and his original aim was to prevent Hua Yuao's assault against Wu Feng. However, he suddenly had a feeling that Hua Yuao's target from beginning to end wasn't Wu Feng. It was him. It felt like Ling Luoken's ice prison had also been considered in Hua Yuao's calculations and predictions. Dai Huabin finally recovered from the powerful controlling effects of spiritual confusion. He still felt a little dizzy, and there seemed to be many elements of various types undulating around his body. At this moment, a blinding ray of light and terrifying pressure restored his senses. What he saw was a golden fist. Shi Wanyu had already launched himself through the air, but he couldn't change directions anymore, even though he had realized that something was amiss. In this crucial moment, his fourth and fifth soul rings sparkled at the same time. A blurry light covered his body, and his skin became as dark as coal, while his entire frame became like an enormous ball of flesh as he barreled forward. The light projection of a giant elephant appeared behind him. His fourth soul skill, Elephant Fog, and his fifth soul skill, Elephant Hide. Elephant Fog ensnared the enemy after clashing against any of their attacks. It would sweep towards the opponent and make them feel like they were mired in a swamp. It was hard to break out of it, and the fog would greatly reduce the force of an attack. Elephant Hide caused the surface of his skin to become gelatinous and rubbery, and increased his defensive capabilities 100%. Colliding with his opponent would produce a powerful elastic force that would bounce them away. Shi Wanyu's martial soul was the Rubberden, and one could say that these two soul skills were Shi Wanyu's strongest defensive abilities. He used both of them at the same time, representing how fearful he was towards Hua Yuao. Shi Wanyu could see that Hua Yuao had turned completely golden. Right now, Hua Yuao looked like a golden statue, and he emanated a fearsome aura that burst forward, making Shi Wanyu tremble with terror. What is this soul skill? A golden fist punched straight towards Shi Wanyu exactly when Dai Huabin recovered from spiritual confusion. Even time seemed to stop when the golden fist slammed against Shi Wanyu's body. In the next moment, the elephant fog around Shi Wanyu's body whisked outwards and attempted to ensnare the golden fist. However, the elephant fog dissipated, crushed in the eruption of golden light. The elephant hide's tremendous elastic force from the collision also seemed to disappear completely. Shi Wanyu's body was hurled backwards at a speed faster than he charged out, and he slammed right into Dai Huabin in the distance. The surface of Shi Wanyu's body appeared to be covered by a layer of golden foil, and golden light glowed continuously. Dai Huabin didn't just sit back. He extended his tiger paws in front of him and attempted to catch Shi Wanyu. However, he felt a frightening pressure pass into his body the moment he caught Shi Wanyu. It was so stifling that it was nigh suffocating, like a supreme ruler had descended upon the world. His mind and spirit were shaken as Shi Wanyu crashed into his chest, and the two of them were thrown back several meters from the force before they stabilized themselves. Fresh blood was pouring out from Shi Wanyu's mouth and nose. The fatso's face was ghastly pale, and his body was shaking badly. He stared at Dai Huabin and said, So powerful. My defenses have been broken. This was the Sovereign's descent, charged with Hadong power. So how could it be as simple as just breaking through his defenses? The Sovereign's descent had left a deep and lasting mark in Shi Wanyu's spiritual sea. So the next time he faced Hua Yuao, this spiritual imprint would greatly disrupt his nerves and his mind. Dai Huabin was also overcome with a haze of terror, but he still pounced towards Hua Yuao like there was no turning back. He was as familiar as could be with how powerful Shi Wanyu's guard was. Not even he had the confidence to break through Shi Wanyu's defenses. Even though Shi Wanyu was slightly weaker in terms of fighting power, his defensive capabilities were publicly recognized as the strongest amongst the others of his age group, and yet he couldn't even take a single punch from Hua Yuao. Furthermore, this was also under the amplifying effects of the Seven Treasures Glazed Pagoda. Shi Wanyu was shoved off, and Hua Yuao and Wang Dong took 2 steps back before they regained their balance. The powerful impact still took effect on them in the end. The Seven Treasures Glazed Pagoda's amplification effects were indeed formidable. If Hua Yuao had launched that attack by himself, he wouldn't have been able to make Shi Wanyu lose all ability to fight. However, he wasn't alone in this battle today. He had the support of the Hadong power. No matter how strong the Seven Treasures Glazed Pagoda's supportive power was, it couldn't compare to a martial soul fusion ability with 100% compatibility. And there was also mass enfeeblement at work. Butterfly wings extended to the side, and large patches of golden light burst from behind them. The light of the butterfly goddess. The ice prism from before was gone. It had vanished under the touch of a tender, tiny hand. Hua Yuao made his move on one side, while the little snow lady had flown in the opposite direction and touched the ice prison lightly. The ice prison melted almost instantaneously. Ling Luoken realized, to her intense fear and surprise, that the connection with her soul skill was immediately severed when the little snow lady touched the ice prison. The light of the butterfly goddess wrapped around the little snow lady and swept towards the defenseless Wu Feng. Only several breaths had passed since the beginning of the battle till now. Hua Yuao and Wang Donga first weakened their opponents, before they separated, controlled, and divided the 3 close combat opponents and eventually took one of them down. Their momentum continued, and their coordination could be said to be miraculous and seamless. Nothing was wasted at all, and their judgments were incredibly precise. After he punched Shi Wanyu away, Hua Yuao didn't look at Dai Huabin, who was charging towards him. His eyes were staring straight at Ning Tian behind Ling Luoken. 2 purplish golden rays of light flickered in his eyes. Ning Tian grunted coldly. The connection between the 7 treasure glazed pagoda and her companions had immediately been severed. Spiritual shock. Every student from the inner courtyard had impressive fighting prowess. However, they were far more inferior than Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao had been through so many life and death situations, and he paid with blood and sweat to gather fighting experience from the battles Juiken and Jingxian had forced him to participate in. From his perspective, raw numbers would never be an advantage. Being able to maximize one's potential and being able to unleash one's abilities to the highest possible level were advantages. The tiny snow lady began to fly backwards. She was just so petite, and the way she raised her right arm was truly a little comical. This was especially so when she extended a tiny finger that was no longer than a caterpillar as she pointed up at the sky. Her dark blue eyes flowed with seriousness, but no matter what state she was in, her appearance could only be described with one word: cute. Yeah. The tiny snow lady called out, and a mystical scene occurred. Azure green light immediately shone from Hua Yuao's body, the domain of perpetual ice. At the same time, the little snow lady's body erupted with an orange gold luster, and the second orange gold soul ring on Hua Yuao's body sparkled vigorously. The ice and snow were released from beneath Hua Yuao's feet. A blizzard began to spread instantly. A temperature that was more than 20 degrees below zero swept forward along with the blizzard. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's domain of perpetual ice, and the Snow Empress Snowy Dance of the brilliant sun were combined. The Snowy Dance of ultimate ice. The next spell skill that Ling Luoken released was immediately consumed by the snow and ice that loomed over the sky. The intense chill that appeared within a split second completely suppressed the red dragon's heated flames that had burst out from Wu Feng's body. The scene in front of Dai Huabin's eyes immediately became nothing but white snow and ice, and the extreme cold caused his speed to plummet. The group of elders on the ferry were already standing up. Is this a domain ability? me. The other students from the inner courtyard in the distance who were participating in the blind debate looked on as their faces became a little slack. That terrifying world of snow ice had a diameter of more than 100 meters, and everyone could vividly feel its chill in their heart and soul. Is this really something that a 5-ringed Soul King can accomplish? Everyone had the same thought in mind. The sea god's lake began to transform. It had only been affected by Ling Logan's ice element at first, which formed a layer of ice more than 100 meters in diameter on the lake's surface. However, more than half of the entire sea god's lake was now starting to freeze over, and an eerie chill permeated the skies. There was only astonishment in Jang Lasan's eyes. When she turned towards Bei Bei, she could see the same bewilderment and astonishment in his eyes. It was clear that not even Bei Bei knew that his little junior brother was this powerful. A golden hammer flew out under the cover of snow and ice. All 5 of their opponents were trying to resist the intense coldness coating the area, but everyone froze at the same time. Mantra amidst the void, spiritual tempest. This martial soul fusion skill became even more terrifying under the cover of the snowy dance of ultimate ice. Nobody could see what was happening inside the domain. Not even Elder Sun could see through it. Unless he forcefully broke through it, everything within its area of effect was part of Huo Yuao's world. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.